Hey everybody, welcome to another episode. I'm Matt.
I'm Mandy.
And this is another episode. Thank you guys so much for joining us again as we dip back into the movies that shaped our childhood. And today, Mandy, what are we talking about?
Today we are talking about the 1995 drag queen classic, To Wong Foo, Thanks for Everything, what is it?
Newmar. Julie Newmar. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I tried to say it without having to look at my notes.
To Wong Foo, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. 1995, you said, right?
Yes.
Patrick Swayze, John Leguizamo, Wesley Snipes, classic.
Yes. Yes. Just a dream team.
Right, yeah. It's crazy to think that like they should have just been in a movie together in any circumstances, but then this is the one that they all got together with, but we'll take it, you know.
Awesome.
And of course, we always like to remind everyone listening in or watching, if you've never found a reason to watch this movie, please take a moment and go watch it. It's currently streaming on Netflix, so you can grab it there, watch it, and then you can come back and join us for the conversation. And you're back. All right. Thanks for taking the time. So, okay. So now that we're in this mix, everybody's seen the movie. We're all in this together here. We don't like to talk about these movies just between Mandy and me because we don't care what each other think anymore. We've done 99 episodes at this point. So we need to get some other folks in here to explain, you know, their views on these sometimes garbage old movies. So I am very excited to have on the show for the first time. We've got a Grand Rapids area activist, comedian, performer. Ginger Ambrosia is with us, everybody.
Hello. I'm so excited.
welcome.
Thank you so much for coming. This is amazing. I feel like weird, like fangirl right now, and I haven't even met you before.
Oh my gosh, that is really fun. I feel like a fangirl for you too.
No, thanks.
I think I want to say one of the first times that I met you, Ginger, you were performing at the Sunday Night Funnies, at the Funniest Person in Grand Rapids competition. And I think I was also a part of that show as well.
Yeah. Yes. Oh my goodness. I feel like, well, I haven't really changed, but I was going to say, I feel like I used to like make fun of everyone else in the competition. I would still do that.
Okay.
But, hello. Oh my God.
That seems about right. So what we always ask everyone before we get started, how long had it been since you watched this movie before we made you watch it for the podcast?
It wasn't actually that long. I think like March during quarantine, I watched it with my partner who had never seen it before.
Okay.
And then I had seen it a couple times before that. And so I've seen it several times.
Mm-hmm.
So it's at the point where I can explain to someone else like the details of the film probably.
Sure.
So it was fun to rewatch it again.
Nice. All right.
Awesome.
And Mandy, how long had it been?
It's probably been about like 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
But I watched it all the time when I was a kid.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
To the point where it was hard for me to even like see them in other movies.
Yeah.
And John Leguizamo is like one of my favorite people ever. I love him so much.
He will always be Chi-Chi Rodriguez for you.
Yeah. No. But I do love him anyways. Like despite this role, I think he did an okay job.
Okay.
Yeah. He's no Patrick Swayze, who I thought was amazing.
Yes.
Like I kept forgetting. Yeah. I kept forgetting that he was like in drag. Like I just saw him as a woman, you know, in this movie. I thought he did great. I had a hard time. Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say I'd never seen it before. And it was like a couple years ago. I watched it for the first time and I had heard of it before and I'd seen pictures of them like in drag. And I was kind of like, they're like, who did their makeup? Like they just look, I mean, some of them, sometimes they look good. Sometimes they look kind of bad. But then I was like, oh my God, I had no clue that it was these like famous actors that are like these straight guys.
Yeah.
I had no clue that it was the same people.
Sure.
And that just like tickled me when I found out that was what was going on. So I think it's really funny.
Yeah, they did, and they featured a few like notable drag queens at the time in the movie as well. But I was going to ask, so would you have? Does it take anything away from the movie for you that they used like straight male actors at the time, or do you think I'm torn between whether this was like a marketing stunt to try to draw attention to the movie, or if it was a good thing to do at the time to sort of mainstream, that as a, just as a person, you know what I mean? Like, or what does that mean to you?
I think to me,
yeah.
Okay, I think that it probably was like a marketing thing, but when you watch the whole film, the message of the movie is really important for people that maybe would not have watched it had it been, they have like Coco Peru and RuPaul, and I forgot there was a couple other ones that were really like kind of big in like underground-ish culture.
Yeah, I have them listed if you want me to tell you. I have Lady Bunny.
Yeah.
Candace Kane. You mentioned Coco Peru. Head of Lettuce, which I thought was funny because I'd never heard of that before.
Yeah.
And Lady Kateria.
Okay.
Yeah. So those were like some of the famous names.
Yeah.
And I always thought RuPaul was a very attractive
so beautiful
in both aspects of his or her life. You know what I mean? Like he's a handsome man too, which seems weird to think that happens. You can handle that in both sides of things. But yeah,
look at me, hello.
There you go. Yeah, right.
I'm just kidding. I feel like as a boy, I look like a weird potato or something. But watching it when I watched it too. At the time, I really liked Coco Peru. Who was in there? They show her in kind of the beginning, and she always has the same hairstyle. It's like that ginger colored, like little, with the bangs.
Uh-huh.
Now she does these really funny videos. I don't know if you've seen them on YouTube, but she like goes through stores in drag, and her drag is very like passable looking. Like it might be hard for people to know that it's a drag queen. They might just be like, what is happening? But it's not very like offensive how she looks. It's not like a lot. And so she goes through like Target and all these other stores and like picks things out and will like narrate her whole trip to the store, and it's so stupid, but that's how I found her.
I want all celebrities to do this, just so you know. I want to see Morgan Freeman walking through Target and like being like, oh, like what can I get? Oh, look at these toothbrushes or 2 for 1 or whatever, like whatever they do.
It is so funny. I'm like, what is going on? So then I saw her in the movie, and I kind of was like, I at first I thought, oh wow, that person looks just like this person on YouTube who's a lot older now in the face. And then I realized, oh my gosh, that is the same actor. And he was in this movie. So yeah, I thought that was really cool.
So overall, do you feel like this is a plus then to the community, like to the drag queen community? Or do you think this was a detractor?
I think that if it came out now, it would be that some of the jokes and things would get in trouble.
Yeah.
But I think for at the time, I think it sends a really good message of like coming together, especially at the end when you have like the women who are saying like, no, I'm a drag queen, and the men saying like, no, I'm a drag queen, and they're all kind of standing in the way. And we kind of see that now, and like with like activist work that I do, a lot of people who are involved in that, we're people who are privileged or at the forefront are supposed to stand in the way, and that movie like subtly kind of slid that in without it being too aggressive. So I think that's really interesting that they kind of put that in there.
Yeah, absolutely. It really, I felt like, oh my gosh, this is so what's happening right now, in the world. So Matt, we never asked you, how long had it been since you've seen it?
Oh, it had been years and years, probably, I don't know, 20 years or so. But my mom, this was actually a big favorite of my mom. She was a huge Patrick Swayze fan. And I just remember this is when she would sit down to watch a movie, it would be this most often, so I just sort of watched it vicariously through her kind of in the room. And then, I mean, I was glad to watch it again. Honestly, I was like, oh, I remember this. And as it was happening in the movie, I was like, oh my God, I totally remember, this part, and this is what happens. And so basically, just to give kind of a brief rundown, because a lot of people...
Did you remember that Robin Williams was in it? Because I just about shit my pants when he came out, and I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot he was in this movie.
Well, the very beginning, I noticed, like, the opening credits had very much a Birdcage vibe to them, like the pastel colors and everything else. And I was like, no shit, like, Robin Williams is in this as well. So We had discussed maybe doing Birdcage as well,
Mm-hmm.
which obviously is kind of a similar vibe for his character in this movie. It's like they just transplanted him out of this movie and put him into Birdcage.
Sorry, I mean to interrupt you. You were going to kind of summarize for us?
I was just, so it's basically a competition where drag queens are competing against each other, and the winner gets a trip to Los Angeles. And it happens to be this year that the winners are tied. It's Wesley Snipes and Patrick Swayze, and they get a trip to Los Angeles. And rather than
Noxzema and Vita.
That's true. Yep, Noxzema Jackson and Jesse's daughter.
Yeah, right.
I love when she said that. I cracked me up.
And they decide to take a sad little Latin boy in a dress with them to Los Angeles. And so, of course, they fish out of water. They get trapped somewhere along the way. Do we even know where they ended up? What town they're in? Or I don't know.
Yeah, it's yeah. Oh no. I know it's a real town.
Somewhere in Middle America. I know that.
Yes.
In the backwoods, and then they just have to kind of make do while their car is broken down for a few days. So basically, the whole movie takes place over the span of like a 3-day trip or whatever period, where they're waiting for parts for a shitty Cadillac. So yeah, and that's where we end up. So Ginger, do you have? I was gonna say other Patrick Swayze films that that you enjoy at all, or any of these guys, Patrick Swayze, Wesley Snipes, or John Leguizamo films?
Yeah, I really, obviously I love Ghost.
Okay.
That gets me emotional whenever I watch it. It is so sad. John, I can't say his last name.
John Leguizamo, sure.
Leguizamo?
Yeah.
Listen, as a half Mexican, I love saying that to I'm like, I can't say your name. And I'm not going to.
There you go.
I've seen him in other films too, but it's funny because the little Latin boy and drag thing, I had heard that, so I'm, being half Mexican, I had heard that so many times from older drag queens, and I was like, what are they talking, like, what? I thought it was funny, but I was like, at one point I was like, are they talking about me? Because they're all saying it. There's no way that they all know that. And then I would see it on Twitter, and I was like, hold on. So when I heard it in the film, I was like, oh, okay. There
it is. Yeah.
So,
I think this clip is that real quick. So introduces the main three here.
That little Latin boy in drag is crying. Find out why that little Latin boy in drag is crying. Little Latin boy in drag. Why are you crying? Just because the two of you are so pretty, you're so pretty.
That's so sad.
Yes, of course we're pretty, but why
Of course we're pretty. I love
Maybe
it.
she just found out when you don't like her.
I'm like, I know.
Yeah, Wesley Snipes is totally racist. Wesley Snipes is totally racist towards Chi-Chi.
There's a lot going on there. I was like, oh, okay.
We also got a weird racist vibe from John Jacob Jingleheimer there when he was all he said talking about getting a mule and 40 acres and nonsense.
Yeah.
He was like, just kidding, but I was like, whoa, hold on there. We talked about Robin Williams. Let's play a clip of him real quick here just for everyone to kind of get a vibe of what he was in this movie.
Oh, vida, que bellissima come va.
Darling.
I just want a friend like him. I need Robin Williams in my life.
Someone who's constantly over the top.
It's like they took one of the characters when they put him in drag in Mrs. Doubtfire, and they put it here. They were like, do that.
And Noxzema, you remember John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt? Oh, yes. His name is my name, too. People always shout, I hate that.
Yes.
People always shout, I hate that.
It's so funny because, a lot of queer people that I'm friends with and drag queens, they really are that fast and quick, and you'll miss the joke.
Sure.
And then you'll think about it. I was rewatching this film. I was like, oh my God, all these going back and forth. That really is how it is. Mm-hmm. And I really, with the older queens to the younger queens, that really is how it is too. And it's weird because I think that John's character, the little Latin boy in drag, it really is representative of a booger, which is what they sometimes call ugly, younger queens who don't know what they're doing. It really is spot on because there's so much confidence, but there's not any type of polished or understanding.
Okay.
And because I'm polished now, I decided to do a Vita look.
Yeah, and you said that it takes you 3 hours to look this beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, I started
that's amazing.
At 3,
so how long?
Oh my gosh, I am so honored that you did this for us. Seriously.
I love
While I sit in my basement, I went to the beach and I didn't even wash my hair afterwards. So like I look horrid in my t-shirt that Matt's wife made me.
Yeah, it's one of my merch shirts from my comedy.
There we go.
And I'm wearing a 6-member Mafia shirt from the Elemento podcast. So
there you go.
But yeah, I do want to recommend that we are also on YouTube if you're just listening to this as a podcast, and you can see Ginger in full glory on the YouTube channel. So you can see what took 3 hours to get there. But I did want to ask you, it took you 3 hours today to get here, but how long did it take you to get here in life? Like how long has this process been going on for you?
Oh gosh, it's been since I would say like 2014.
Okay.
But it went through different phases of like trying to like blend in and fit in and see where you fit in and how does that correspond to how you look, and do you want your look to look like other people? How can you make it your own? And so it's been like a long, trying to figure that out.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So
awesome.
Has it been a sort of a changing process, or was this always your look or always your intent from the beginning?
I always wanted to, so my name, it comes from, the first name is because I'm actually a redhead.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like to do like red hair like this sometimes because that's really what my hair looks like.
You are the rare redheaded Mexican. They are so rare.
Yes, they are. They're there. Yeah, my dad is red-haired. My mom is a Mexican person. And so, yeah, the ginger thing, I have a super hot aunt who's also super smart, but her name is Ginger. I think she has like doctorates or something, or she's a doctor. I don't know. But she's really smart, but she's also really, really, really like looks like a Barbie.
Okay.
So she's like science Barbie, and I also always Ginger. So I was like, that's a girl's name. But it took quite a while. I think for a long time I had fire engine like red hair, and sometimes I'll do that to kind of go back to it. But I think I go through phases. Right now I'm doing a lot of like bright orange or ginger hair for like the summertime, and then sometimes I'll change it up and scare people and do like a blonde hair. But it just depends on like if I'm doing a character or if I'm just doing like the ginger thing or whatnot. So like I did a roast and I had like fire colored hair to do like a roast and to really like take it literally.
Sure.
So yeah, it took a while to figure out. I think for a while I was like, I'm gonna be a pinup girl, and then I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have makeup or like a breastplate to make things look real. So this is like not real. It's like a t-shirt on my actual skin. But I didn't have like the resources to do that. So I was like, well, I'm gonna try to, look as womanly as possible. And that didn't really work too well because I was wearing a lot of light makeup and I didn't have like a lot going on. And then I think I found like a good balance between the two where it's a drag queen and it's still pretty, but the things that come out of my mouth are disgusting. So.
I was gonna ask, what is your favorite way to perform? Is it doing comedy, or is
my favorite way is to do a song that everyone knows and cut it up with the music on like Audacity or something, and put in some type of like funny current events or political clips in there and like mess with the song. And that comes from looking at other drag queens like Miss Cracker or Bob the Drag Queen, who they really do. I don't know if you've heard of like Bob the Drag Queen, but like Bob is big old bottom. That's like a funny thing. So his name is Bob the Drag Queen. And then Miss Cracker is also, so they're New York queens, and they do like these mixes. I know Miss Cracker does like a mix of like an angry wife, and she's driving in a car, and so the whole performance, she's actually like, it's very impressive. She's like sitting, kind of standing like she looks like she's sitting in a car, but she's actually there's nothing there. It's just her body. And so
she's squatting that whole time.
Yeah, she's squatting. That's the word. I was like, what's the word?
Oh my gosh.
She's squatting. And then it cuts into Before He Cheats by Carrie Underwood, and then Bust Your Windows by Jasmine Sullivan. So it's like, so I like to do that. I did like for quarantine, I did All By Myself about COVID-19.
Okay.
And so a lot of people know that song. And then I was like, a lot of people feel like they're going nuts. And so I want to show like a woman who's like going nuts. But it talks in the beginning about when I was young. So I did like a really old woman look and did wrinkles and like old hair and whatever. Yeah. And then I had to take a shower, change out of it, redo my makeup to look young, and do like a flashback scene. So it was a lot of work, but I like to do kind of like mainstream popular songs that are kind of going on, or classic songs, and then stop them in the middle of it and have people kind of be like, whoop, and do something funny. Like I know I just did Physical by Dua Lipa, which is like popular right now, and it sounds like a 80s workout song.
Are these videos that people can find of yours?
Yes,
then?
that's on YouTube. If you just search my name, it'll come up.
Awesome.
So yeah, just trying to do stupid, funny, and instead of a normal workout, I did a workout with a bunch of dildos. And so
oh my god, that is amazing.
Yeah, so basically just trying to pervert, make things a little bit more perverse than they are, and hopefully, really the goal is hopefully to make people laugh at the end of the day, because things are, especially right now, are so stressful and so rough.
Oh,
for sure.
So, totally. I mean, the fact that we even started doing this on Zoom was because we were quarantined. So
yeah,
and it's a lot.
Yeah, and I toyed with the idea of taking like a week off and just letting, like, there's no, like, a lot of people don't want to laugh right now, or they don't want to be, finding this entertainment. They want to use their time elsewhere to make a difference. But there's also the people who need a distraction and need to, just kind of continue on with their regular schedule and stay the course, and so we're here for that too. So I do want to jump into a couple more clips here. I've got this is when they discuss when they're telling John Leguizamo, Chi-Chi, that she is just a boy in a dress here.
Darling, if you're going to become a drag queen, you're going to have to learn these things.
What do you mean, be a drag queen? I am a drag queen.
Oh, child, no. You would simply put a boy in a dress. When a straight man puts on a dress and gets his sexual kicks, he is a transvestite. When a man is a woman trapped in a man's body and has the little operation, he is a transsexual.
I know that.
When a gay man has way too much fashion sense for one gender, he is a drag queen.
Thank you.
And when a tired little Latin boy puts on a dress, he is simply a boy in a dress.
Oh my God.
So I do have to say, as much as I love John Leguizamo, you know how I'm obsessed with teeth?
Sure.
The lipstick just exacerbated the fact that he has horrible teeth. I mean, and it's not even that his teeth aren't healthy or they're not straight. It's just the way that they are. I feel like he is ready to bite into someone's neck because, and the lipstick, like, just because I love him. I love him in like Romeo and Juliet. I love his one-man show.
The Happening.
Yeah, not so much.
No.
I thought he was great in Executive Decision.
Okay.
But he, like, seeing him in this with all the red lipstick, I just felt like he was vampire-esque. Like, I was like, I couldn't.
Well, and he had like the super pale skin too, and they even make the joke in the film about how he's going to pick a shade that's more closer to his body type, to his skin tone.
And I do have to say too that I did not enjoy his character leading on that young man who was just so dopey, and like, I realized that she, had a self-esteem issue and she needed to have that kind of like uplifting thing. And obviously she ended up making the right decision. But the whole time, I, like, as a kid, I was just like, whatever. But as an adult, that's obviously had my heart broken like more times. I'm like, oh yeah, this is not good. Especially I'm such an impressionable kid that doesn't know anything.
Yeah. Speaking of that kid, that's the same kid from
Dazed and Confused.
Dazed and Confused, yeah.
Yes.
There's a bunch of folks in this movie that we've done other episodes with.
So many.
I don't know what the name of the actress is that gets like the battered woman character, but I love her.
Stockard Channing.
Stockard Channing. She is like, there's something about her look that is just like, it's so unique, and like, I don't know if it's her eyes are like slanty kind of on the sides or what it is. I just think she's super beautiful.
Oh, I've been in love with her ever since
Rizzo.
Yeah, Rizzo from Grease, man. When she sings "There Are Worse Things I Could Do," that makes me sad. Oh, are you just realizing this was Rizzo from Grease? No?
I'm gonna go. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Had no clue. Now I can see it. Wow.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. So does she talk like that? Like all Southern, or is that not real?
I think it's a put on. I think it's just
an actress.
Yeah,
I was going to say her voice transports me to a Cracker Barrel, but it still does.
Yeah, for sure it does. Yeah,
but
she's probably my standout performance in this movie. Just and she doesn't really say a ton. Like, there's not a lot that she really talks about, other than her kind of monologue toward the end when she says that she loves Vita and that she thinks of her as an angel instead of a man or a woman and all that stuff. But just her in that situation, you feel so bad for her and you just want her to leave and get out of there. But you realize, like she said, she's got responsibilities there, and they do end up getting rid of Virgil. So I guess we think, I mean, in reality, Virgil's going to just go on a bender for a weekend and then come back and beat the shit out of her again after they leave. But, you know.
They should have killed him.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
Right?
Could have had a Dixie Chick song out of this.
Goodbye, Earl. That's what I was thinking. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, here is Virgil, just in case we want to put a voice to the person that everyone hates in this movie.
You put spices in here.
It's so white of him. You put any kind of spice at all.
Yeah. I need this to be bland.
Any white woman at a Thai restaurant, she's like,
"You want to make me mad?"
Yeah.
What are you arguing with?
Paprika.
I'm not.
You want me to
she's like, "Girl, it's just black pepper." I don't.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, that was kind of a rude thing. She just walks in and starts dumping shit into a pot.
Right.
She is out of control. Yeah. I also love this movie. I love and I think it's so stupid that they're in drag for like the entire movie. Like they never are really out of drag, which is not. Because I think that's a big question that people ask is like, oh, is this your lot? Like, do you want to be a woman? And like, is this your, the ultimate goal? And I'm like, girl, no, this is a goal for tonight to make $100.
Yeah.
And the next goal is to go to sleep. So I think it's just funny that they're in drag, and it's also funny that it's never questioned or like mentioned. They just kind of like every character just rolls with it, and they're like, okay, well, so anyway.
That's how we woke up. We rolled out of bed like this. That's
right.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna. So for you, for doing like comedy stuff, it's tough to do. Like, you can't just drop in on an open mic, really,
right?
And try out some stuff, because it's gotta come off differently as Ginger. And, when you're trying jokes out or doing things as Ginger and you're not in the full get up there, it's got to be a different sort of vibe to it. I assume it's tough to try out material, because you really got to put your all into it.
I really do. Yeah, what I've been trying to do recently is work with some of the funny girls who I'm really good friends with, and kind of do a little bit more of like anecdotal, like talking about my childhood as a gay person. I think people are really interested in that kind of stuff. Like they're interested in seeing the drag queen, but they want to know how did we get here?
What's behind that? Yeah.
So it is very hard, but I also think that's part of the magic behind it, and the illusion is that a lot of people are like, just come as Nate, just come as a boy.
Sure.
And I'm like, no. The magic of it is that the illusion is kind of the same with the movie, is that the illusion and the fantasy of being this, creature that I can just show up. And it's also, I think sometimes a bit intimidating for other people, because it's like, oh, there's that thing, and they're going to make jokes. And so I always was like, I want to show up correct and in this every time, to really, like, even if people don't think I'm funny, or they don't want to hear what I have to say, they have to see it.
Sure.
And so that is really what's behind being in drag and doing comedy, is because people have to see a queer person. They can't look away, and they don't really want to look away. It's like either really weird to them or it's really pretty. So
Sure.
it is hard to like just kind of on a whim. And so I try to do some like joke writing before coronavirus with people at bars and things. Now I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. I haven't written a joke in 3 months myself or more.
It is.
The world, our country is the joke. Our politics.
Right. It's just I've had so much time. I've had so much time on my hands, and I've done nothing productive as far as comedy goes, and it makes me sad every day. But there's just nothing I can do. I usually draw most of my comedy from experiences, and I'm experiencing nothing.
Nothing.
Literally nothing every day. Right. So that's kind of how it works. But you said kind of people were interested in your backstory or you as a child and coming, and we generally ask our guests, if we were to give the reins to you on this and say, because we make you watch a movie that shaped our childhood, but what would you say if we were to give you the reins and say, pick a movie that shaped your childhood and make us watch it, what would that movie be?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. Actually, speaking of a movie that I always make people watch, it's a sad movie, but it's like a drama, but it's sad. But it's Bicentennial Man with Robin Williams.
Oh, wow, okay.
I'm not really sure why, but I used to watch it all the time. And I think it's because a lot of people died when I was younger. And I think maybe I, subconsciously like wanted people to live for a really long time. Okay. Now I'm realizing that as an adult. But I make everyone watch. I'm like, have you seen this movie? To random people. Yeah. And I actually was in a queer webinar thing about different media, and they mentioned Bicentennial Man as it has a trans narrative to it where this person is transitioning from one thing to another, and I was like, oh my god, I also am a queer person, so maybe I really I'm not a trans person, but maybe I really liked it for that reason. So I love Bicentennial Man. I love Robin Williams. Okay. And I don't know if that really shaped my childhood, but I always make people watch them.
Okay. I mean, that works for us, man.
Good to know.
Yeah.
And I love Celine Dion, so there we
go. I do want to, we're going to do one more clip from Officer Dullard. We'll get to meet him.
Yes.
There. Sean Penn, right?
Sean Penn. Yeah. No, Chris Penn. Sean Penn was his brother.
That's the one.
Yeah, Willard from Footloose.
No. Enchanting evening, officer. What seems to be the problem? Well, you've got a tail light on. I'd like to see your license.
Oh, there are so many people in this movie that are people from other movies that I never pieced together.
Hola. Hi. I was wondering if you could help us. You see, we are three young career girls from
Career Girls.
Yes,
I've
from
New York
City,
and
one
we are
time
so
in drag,
lost.
and it did not go over well.
Yeah.
So,
what do you think we are?
Rewatching this, I was like,
West Virginia?
Yikes!
Actually,
Yeah.
West Virginia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a long way from West Virginia, girls.
And I'm pissed at the police right now. So I was
could
like,
you possibly help us find a moderately priced hotel?
But again, another example of allyship.
We don't go for that around these parts.
Yes.
I did have to
speaking for the other people.
I did have to bleep out there. I decided it was appropriate to get rid of that in the film here. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I actually was watching that on Netflix, and I was like, no, delete.
Yeah. Just so you guys know, before the scene where Chris Penn reaches up Patrick Swayze's dress, Patrick Swayze put a corn cob in his underpants. And so when Chris Penn jumps back in shock, it was because, and that's like a legit shock because there was yes, I thought it was hilarious.
Nice.
So when I read that, I was like, go Patrick Swayze. I'm glad to know he had a sense of humor.
Sure. So we're about ready to end our first half here, but before we get to the break, we always have a little activity that we do with our guests, and that activity has a theme song, and that theme song was provided by Mr. Bob Fredericks. So I'm going to go ahead and play the theme song. Oh, wrong one. There it is.
Chop this synopsis. Chop this synopsis. Chop this synopsis.
All right, it is time for us to play Chop This Synopsis. And this is an activity that we ask that you take this movie to Wong Foo, thanks for everything, Julie Newmar, and reduce it down to 10 words or less. So you want to describe the whole movie in 10 words or less. I'm going to recommend that you probably don't use the title because that's going to be 8 of your 10 words right there.
Right.
So yeah, if you want to, and you'll have the break to figure it out. So when we come back from the break, we'll get your 10-word synopsis of this movie. I know it's a lot of movie to cram into 10 words, But we're going to play a couple of ads for some of our friends, some other podcasts, and then we'll come back after the break, and we will get right back to that after these messages.
Hi, this is Bob from Your Welcome Future Self, the podcast. Each week, myself and my co-host Adam come together to become less terrible people one episode at a time. It's a show about creating goals and trying to keep them. I hope you listen in wherever you get your podcasts and join us on our journey of self-improvement and mental health and stability. Or instability, I don't know. But come on and join us.
Jamie, I need you to keep the dogs quiet. I'm recording a commercial for the Elemental podcast, so can you keep them quiet during this recording of my commercial for the Elemental podcast? I mean, I know the dogs bark a whole lot when we actually record the podcast on Mondays and Thursdays and during the Patreon on Saturdays. But during the commercial, we need the recording to be dog bark free. Can you do that for me, Jamie? Can you keep the dogs quiet during the recording of this commercial for the Elemental podcast that people can listen to every Monday and Thursday and the Patreon on Saturday? Can you do that for me, Jamie? Thanks, Jamie. I appreciate it.
Chop this synopsis.
And we're back. All right. Thank you guys so much for patronizing those ads that we just threw at your faces and ears. Go listen to those podcasts. They're friends of ours. They've been on the show, and go help them out with some listens. Otherwise, it is time for the rousing conclusion of Chop This Synopsis. So, Ginger, if you could, please regale us with your 10-word or less synopsis of To Wong Foo, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar.
What if it's 12 words?
That's, you do you know?
We'll hyphenate a couple in our mind.
Yeah, you just blend a couple words together.
Thank you. It's 12 words. We'll pretend the extra 2 don't exist, like Chick-fil-A pretends I don't. So, okay, it is.
Right, we can just end the podcast right there.
Boom.
Yeah, right?
I'm kind of hungry. Okay. Yeah. 10 drag queens accidentally challenge racism and misogyny in small town USA.
Okay.
Love it.
All right. I'd watch that. I'd click on that movie. We'll see what happens.
Me too.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That's especially right now. And happy Pride Month, by the way.
For sure. Yeah.
I know that there's a lot, there's a lot going on. So there's not just one cause right now.
Right. Yeah.
And I looked for like a Pride Month, when you have your profile picture and you can put a frame around it. And I was super disappointed because it was so limited because there was so much other stuff. So, we don't want to lose that in like everything that we have going on.
In the mix of all this, for sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. I'm trying to spread that. I'm doing a couple different shows and things, and we're trying to spread the message that no pride until Black Lives Matter. So we can be gay, and be drag queens another time, in another place, and we will be.
Sure.
But before we can do that, we have to really acknowledge the Black trans community and the Black drag queens who really made it so that way I can even be on this Zoom right now, and that that way this movie could even exist. So, that's kind of how it's weird, and it's like a weird. I was so looking forward to Pride, but then I was like, I am not in a prideful mood.
Yeah.
Sure. Right.
I mean, that's what you have to do. And, good for everybody for standing up together. Like you said, the privileged needs to stand in the way. So, don't feel like you can't, just shout that shit out on here because
perfect.
Anybody that was a Trump fan stopped listening a long ass time ago.
We got our one pissed off Trumper within our first 3 months of doing the podcast that felt necessary to come on and tell us how to try to tell us how to do the podcast. So
they love that.
Yeah,
they need to stop talking about how much they hate Trump and just stick to movies. No, stop listening to our podcast, fucker.
Speaking of somebody who decided to chime in and talk to us, we just got an email. To the email address for the podcast for the first time in, I don't know, probably 6 months. Somebody actually sent an email.
Don't tell them that. You want them to think that we have hundreds of emails, right?
Well, no, normally we get all of our interaction through the Facebook page, but this person sent us an actual email. So their name is Daniel Blanchard, And they caught on to us from Stu's podcast, from the Elemental podcast, when he came on to do Back to the Future, and he's been listening ever since. So he recommended that we do the movie Rudy, which we told him we'll probably get to sometime in the fall. So if you're into that sort of thing, we'll be doing that movie when it gets closer to actual football time, I guess. That's what they tell me. I don't really know when football time is, but that's...
Now that we're doing shout outs to a girl that, okay, so Ginger, I don't know if you know this, but Matt and I went to high school together. That's how we got into doing all this.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to high school with a girl named Carrie, who I'm sure will listen to this podcast because she asked for it over a year ago.
Yeah.
Like this, yeah. So I'm super excited. Carrie, thanks for keeping up on us, and I'm glad we got to finally do your movie.
For sure.
So,
well, can I ask that? Never mind. I'll say what's her last name, but
when she was in high school, it was Powell, but she has been married, and she's a social worker, so she doesn't give out like her married last name.
Listen, I do social work, and my whole ass name is on here, so
yeah.
We're gonna move along. That's actually, Matt, I was gonna tell you, it's another reason why I feel like doing drag and doing comedy kind of lets me get away with things a little bit more than I would be able to get away with normally. Mm-hmm. Although the organization that I work for is extremely progressive. Several of us, are even out like protesting on our own, not on work time, but we do HIV and syringe access. So it's a very progressive workplace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and that's another thing about this movie is like the big AIDS outbreak came out in '94.
Mm-hmm.
So like this movie came out 1 year after that, and it was #1 for 2 weeks. I think that goes to show that that's like pretty progressive because it's not all the movies that had come out before that were people that could watch gay people dying and feel bad for them, but still like in their minds or when they're at church be like, oh, this is bad. But this is like 3 happy-go-lucky.
Yeah, like this is a joyful experience for the most part. I mean, there's clearly some issues that they're all going through, but in the end, I mean, it turns out to be a fun story. I don't know that I was really I was really expecting them to lean a lot more into the fact that Wesley Snipes was a black man, a black gay man in the middle of America, which would have also been its own problems probably at the time. But they did not focus on that. They focused more on the vibe of the movie, I guess, which I mean, maybe a plus. I don't know, but
I did not enjoy his performance in this movie.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's because like I love like Passenger 57. It's the beer talking. Passenger 57.
It's Leguizamo.
Yeah. And and the Blade movies and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't buy into it necessarily. I did like that he was, giving that's a black drag queen a voice.
Sure.
I do feel like they probably could have found somebody better to do it.
But I mean, I think the whole point, the point is not to pass, right? Like the point is not to look like a lady, right? Necessarily. It's very much a performance art sort of thing. And I feel like he was aware that he didn't, I mean, he wasn't the most beautiful.
And I did not like him really at all up until he was chasing after Miss Clara with the picture.
Yeah.
I laughed my ass off for one thing because that was hilarious. And then I loved that she, I should say, got a chance for them to open up and got her to talk. Yep. And it was just and I loved how she held her hand. And it was very heartwarming to me. I love Miss Clara. For one thing, she is in Ace Ventura. She's laced is out.
That's where I knew her from. So
I was like, where the hell have I seen this lady? And she she basically played the same character.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I like that the film creates sort of like a utopia where a black drag queen can talk to like an 80-year-old white woman, and there's no question about like gender or makeup. They're talking about something completely different, which is, even if we break into the mainstream currently, that's not the conversations that we're usually having.
Sure.
And that's not really how it might be the conversations that we're having, but we have to first, explain what's going on and why we're looking like. So I like that it kind of was this whole other, almost like whole other reality that they entered, where the people were like, almost like we have bigger, it was a weird, like we have bigger fish to fry, but we're also super behind the times, like rustic, like Wild West. And so I thought that was a really interesting way that they did that. And I like that the film showed Wesley Snipes' black drag queen character as like this soft, feminine black gay man who like really, really, really cared that she dropped a picture, a piece of paper or a picture, and chased after her just to give her that and to show the delicacy of like and the humanity behind black people, especially right now. I kind of touched me where I was like, I like that they showed like, a lot of people are scared, especially of it reminds me a lot of Bob the Drag Queen, because that is, I don't know if you guys know of Bob the Drag Queen, but
no, I want to now though.
It's so funny because I just watched all the episodes of the show on HBO. It's called We're Here. What's up, We're Here. They're all queer. But it's 3 drag queens that travel to places like this in the movie, and they pick out 3 different people. They all get assigned a person, and they put them into drag, whether it be king or queen. And then they also teach their town and them something about life. And it's funny because they have a black queen. They have also another black queen, Shangela, who is a lighter skin tone. And then they have a big ass like white queen who she calls herself the Elephant Queen. She's huge. And so all these like dudes, and Shangela's pretty like fishy is the term, like womanly looking. She might be able to pass. The other 2 cannot, and people know that's a drag queen.
For
and
sure.
So you should watch it. It's very good. I was crying, but I think it almost was following this movie where it dawned on me like, oh my God, there's 3 of them. They're traveling to like middle America.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because most of the places they went to, the people were kind of like, okay, cool. Kind of like when I do shows in Ludington. It's very like, okay, we don't know. Like, they don't know what's going on, but they don't want to know.
Even I'm concerned about doing shows in Ludington.
But I believe it was Branson, Missouri was where they were, which is really like, reminds me of this movie. And people, as soon as they got off of their little bus, they went to a coffee shop. They explained that they were there for a show, and they called the police on them immediately. And this was filmed earlier in like March or February.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so it just came out though on HBO. I just watched all of it, and it's very the parallels are very like obvious to this film, to where I was like, oh my God, they're doing this but in real life. And so it's interesting that this film kind of has that like parallel universe where people don't care enough. The drag and gender, they don't. It's up, and she reveals at the end, Rizzo, which I'm shocked about, reveals that she knows, but like
the whole time
she says like, girl, I don't care. And I thought that was really interesting that she was like, yeah, okay, that's great, but I just care about what you've done with me and for me. And the show We're Here is really interesting because the people they're helping feel that way, but the other people in that town, in all the towns, do not feel that way.
Sure.
And so you should go watch it. It's really good.
I want to right now. Like that's right up my alley.
I was like sobbing. So
I really I enjoyed when Clara finally developed as a character, because they talk about her being her husband left for a film distributor because he owned the movie theater in town, and that's what those 2 bonded over was Noxema's love of movies, and then it brought her out of her little shell that she was in. So that was a neat little process. But there is a clip I have that does introduce kind of everyone in town. So I'm going to play this as they're sitting on the front porch and describing the issues with all of the people in town. So
I do love this.
Here we go.
They found the one gossiper.
Hello. Alcoholic.
But before we get to it, did you notice the lady who runs the beauty parlor? Do you know who she is? Mandy?
No, what is her name in the movie?
It's not Marna, it's the other one.
Yeah, because Myrna is from Harry and the Hendersons.
That's the one I was going to say.
That.
So that is her.
Okay.
That is Myrna.
Yes.
Then she's the one who runs the beauty parlor. But anyhow, here we go.
low self-esteem. Oh, her daddy used to call her baby ugly.
Jesus.
She took to the bottle just as soon as she could
Me
swallow.
too.
Over there, her and her husband ain't had sex for nearly 7 years.
I love how she knows that to be a fact. Like,
well, the thing is, Matt and I are from a small town, and this kind of shit, like, you just kind of know.
You know, a
little stutter. The boy in the shop is a stutter.
There's Clara.
Here we go.
And you can say anything to her. She don't hear you. She can't say nothing.
She can't hear you?
No.
The stockings are falling down.
You know, there's no medical reason. Ever since her husband lost the movie theater business and he run off with that lady, a film, what do you call it, distributor?
There is no way that town supported a movie theater in any way whatsoever. There were like 12 people in the town.
Just so you know, John Leguizamo, he frequently improvised, and it pissed Patrick Swayze off, because we've had Patrick Swayze on a couple of movies. When he did Red Dawn, he basically like made that movie because he was the only one that knew how to make a movie.
Sure.
And he actually threatened in John Leguizamo's biography, he said that Patrick Swayze threatened to punch him in the face if he wouldn't stop improvising, which I was like, well, this is John Leguizamo, you know, like this is, but then I thought, well, if my line was supposed to come after your line and you didn't say the line, like I wouldn't even fucking know what I was supposed to say.
I think too, like you add, you know, your acting, but the element of drag, like I'll put y'all in drag and show you, it is not comfortable. Like it is.
No.
Sure.
I put my sister in drag for fun, and she literally halfway through was like, "Can we just take a picture?" And then like, I was like, "No, you have to do the live with me." But I mean, I can't imagine not being used to it, and then being in that, and someone being like, "I'm just gonna do what you know." Also, because his character isn't seen as like a polished, fully realized thing, and Patrick Swayze's is, so it adds that whole other element of like frustration of like, "Yo."
Yes, and according to the three of them, after the movie was over, they did like a giant bonfire where they burned their costumes and their wigs and their makeup because they were just so sick of having to like become a woman. It was quote unquote
uncomfortable. Yeah.
I watched an interview with Patrick Swayze where he said that Wesley Snipes was like relieved and done with it, but he actually had a moment, he said, where he realized that he didn't get to be that anymore, and he was actually proud. He seemed very proud of how pretty he thought he was, you know. And he said that they asked him about what it was like to be in drag all the time and like walking around in heels, and he said that he has had experience teaching women how to walk in. He was a dance instructor and a dancer for a long time, and he said, I've had a lot of experience teaching women how to walk in heels, but he said it's a totally different story when it's me doing the walking. He said, yeah, it tore up his lower back. He said it was very painful for his lower back and stuff. So.
You know what? Believe it or not, I am literally, let me back up. Let me show you. I am fully in heels right now.
Okay. So it's it's not the waist up sort of deal. Huh?
Show you.
Oh my gosh, I love
like,
this.
Fully like a woman right now. And I have like,
oh my gosh.
So I did it for y'all.
Nice.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
I think, yeah, it is so hard. I mean, just the heels part is hard. And then you add on, you know, like this, and it's like you can't breathe because it's like a tight silicone t-shirt and everything.
Yeah.
Like I joked at the beginning, everything is glued on. These are clip-on earrings, so they are like...
I wondered the whole time. I was like, do most drag queens pierce their ears, or do they always wear clip-ons?
You know what they do? This is an E-Hollywood inside scoop. They actually will use clip-on earrings, and then they'll use the I was gonna put on nails, but I was like, no, I'm too young. But they'll use nail glue, like they put on fingernails, and they'll put that on their ear, their actual ear, and then they'll put that on top. And I've known a lot of drag queens who have gotten infections from it ripping off.
Ripping their skin off. Yes.
Yeah, it rips their skin off. So I don't do that, but yeah, if they're especially like dancing queens who do cartwheels and flips and things, and they want like a dangly, they'll glue it on with like super glue or nail glue, and everything is tacked on. So
that is dedication.
Yeah.
Hold on, one more thing, because it has to do with what we're talking about. Patrick Swayze, he got the role because outside of this movie, he did a completely improvised 30-minute like act about being bullied as a kid because he did ballet when he was young, and he lived in Texas.
Oh yeah.
So he got a lot of flack for that. So I just wanted to point that out too, because we were talking about all that stuff.
So we haven't done. We didn't get So this is another one of those movies where they say the name of the movie in the movie. But this one makes a little more sense than a lot of them do. But here's that clip. So this is where they discover Julie Newmar is watching them over Patrick Swayze's shoulder.
Miss Julie Newmar has been watching silently over this entire conversation.
He's so amazing.
Vintage Miss Julie. She is the perfect, the ultimate. Oh, try to describe her and not use the word statuesque. Miss Julie, you are statuesque, and you were the only Catwoman. Oh, read it, please.
To Wong Foo, thanks for everything. Julie Newmar. Who's Wong Foo?
I don't know, but evidently they were close.
I know who Wong Foo is.
Oh, I was going to say we never find out. But, all right.
No, they don't tell you in the movie. Wong Foo, or he, as his friends call him, Fooey.
Okay.
He was the head bartender at the China Bowl restaurant. It was on 152nd West or 152 West 44th Street on Broadway in 1993. The restaurant was covered with headshots and famous actors and actresses who had stopped by the place.
So that's the restaurant they were in.
It must have been. Yeah, this is all real, like that. But I'm sorry. In 1993, that restaurant actually closed. Oh. So this came out a couple years later, but it's kind of like the same thing.
Look at that.
Yeah, and I do want to also say to Viggo Mortensen, Gary Oldman, Matt Dillon, Robert Downey Jr., Rob Lowe, and Mel Gibson were all considered for the roles of these. Yeah, okay. Those are actually all white people. So obviously Wesley Snipes would, and they must have all been going for Vita, I'm assuming.
Well, like I said, though, they didn't really write the script as if he were a black man. It didn't really come, like it wasn't written in the way that they focused on it, so it may not have been written as a black drag queen specifically.
Yeah, but when he says, "Look, she's running like she's running for the border, or running over the border," like I feel like that is a comment that could not have been said by a white man even back in 1995.
Yeah, I don't know. Here is when they stop at the hotel. That they finally Chi-Chi finally talks them into stopping in a hotel. They were going to sleep in the car, but they decided not to, and she takes the reins and decides to go in and see what happens here.
You know, budget hosts are really good. I'm serious. They let you keep the mints on the pillows even if you don't stay the whole night, Mom.
It's a budget host. Oh, I don't know. It's just so middle America.
It's just so middle America.
Why don't we just sleep in the car?
Nuh-uh.
Oh, please.
If I don't sleep in a real bed, I'm going to start to freak, okay?
People are going to be cruel to us. It could get violent, Vita. You know, we've been there before.
Fine, let's throw you to a pity party, okay? Two fraidy old ladies.
Fraidy old lady.
What is she doing now?
You got to live life before it lives you.
Get herself killed.
Oh, God, you know, you're going to be second class. You're going to be second rate your whole life. Please come back. Huh?
All right. Yeah.
When she's like, I'm gonna hitchhike and ride some man back to New York City.
She's great.
So also the other cameo that we haven't mentioned is Naomi Campbell. I don't know if you saw that she was the.
You said you're so beautiful to Leguizamo.
Yep. So that's pretty much it for my fun facts. Okay. And so if we want to do.
You want to do the box office? Yeah, all right.
Sure.
We got another little activity that we play, and it is also has a theme song. This theme song was provided by Mr. Stu McAllister. Box office theme song. That's it. Box office theme song.
And actually, this is going to be very short.
Okay.
Because I cannot find what the budget was to make this movie anywhere.
How much it took to make it?
I looked for it in three different times today in probably places. 20 different areas, and I read so much stuff that was just so all I know is how much this movie made worldwide gross.
Okay, so go ahead and guess, Ginger. How much do you think this movie made?
I'm so poor. Any number sounds big to me.
I would imagine if I had to guess how much it cost to make this movie, I would have said it's got to be somewhere in the upper teens to like 20 million, somewhere in that area.
That's what I figured. I figured it was probably going to be about 20 million.
So but yeah, if that were considered probably close to the budget to make it, what do you think it made overall? I don't know the answer either. So
I don't know. I would guess like, because it's such a niche film too, and but I feel like now it's kind of like a classic, type thing. Maybe like 11 million
over budget. So okay.
Wait, do you think that they only made 11 million, or do you think they?
I don't know how to guess math, but I'm gonna say 11 million for.
Okay.
They only made that much.
So that's how much they cleared over budget, probably. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I would say, I think because you actually let slip earlier that it was #1 for a couple of weeks. So that probably made a huge pile of money in the first few weeks, I would guess. So I'm going to say somewhere in the round, like the 50 million-ish mark.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually very close. 48 million.
48 million. Okay. All right.
Wow.
Which is very respectable for 1995.
Sure. And there's no way that movie cost more than 20. I can't imagine it cost more than 20 to make.
No.
So they doubled their budget for sure.
It would have. I mean, most of the stuff would have been spent on like their outfits and when they made up the ladies and yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I'm
the
sure
soundtrack.
Very expensive too. Yeah,
yes.
The soundtrack. I know RuPaul too. I also love fuck RuPaul, but and his fracking, but. At the time, RuPaul was not fracking, and I really love that his name is Rachel Tension.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I also love it because it sort of predicted the future with Rachel Dolezal. I was like, wait a minute, like I said, oh my god, like Rachel Dolezal, and I was like, wait, that was before, So I love that she's wearing like the Confederate flag. I love that like
lowered down from the ceiling.
Yeah, I love that.
Here is that clip where they introduce her and the rest of the little cast here.
I had to get comfortable. I've been sitting crisscross applesauce this whole time.
This year's Drag Queen of the Year, last year's winner. Put your hands together for Miss Rachel Tension.
Here we are again. Another year flies by, and it's time to crown a new Drag Queen of the Year.
This is when RuPaul still did his own makeup too.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know the scoop on like drag, things, but RuPaul doesn't, now he doesn't do his own wigs or hair or anything like that. A lot of people ask me like, do you do your own makeup? Do you do your hair? And I have people that will like fix this to make it look like that, but I have to keep it, nice, and I do my own makeup. And I'll buy costumes from people, or this is from like Amazon. But we do it, I do it all myself. But RuPaul now doesn't do any of his drag.
He's got like handlers.
No, for real, he has people that put like his, help him put his tights on and help him do everything. And so, with the Drag Race finale and everything that's been going on through Zoom, he hasn't had those people there, so he wasn't in drag for like any of those things. So people were very upset.
Yeah. Well, I did want to ask you, have you thought about moving? Do you feel like Michigan is like such an intolerant place that you just would be happier somewhere else? Or are you good to go? Like you're like blazing trails here, or how do you feel?
I'm fine here, but I dated someone in Chicago for a while, and I was looking at moving there, which would be it would take some saving up, but it wouldn't be that hard. My partner currently, I'd want to move with him, but eventually Chicago in a year or two might be still a thing. I think that though I've noticed with West Michigan that a lot of people move away and they don't stay to fix what's going on,
sure,
or to even try. And so something that I've been trying to, as I get older, something that I've been trying to do is be a little bit more patient and work with people here. I had a show that was going to happen at a comedy project, my own thing for the first time with my name on it. And then coronavirus happened, like literally right when it was about to get announced.
Fuck you, COVID.
So I was so sad. I was like, no. So, but I think that in Grand Rapids, we are moving towards a place where we're able to carve out a space where it can be comfortable, but currently it's not super duper comfortable. But especially with everything going on around Black Lives Matter and really advocating for people who are even less marginalized than myself. I think that there's a lot happening, a lot changing. But I'm from the South. I don't know if I said that. I'm from Atlanta, and
okay. We did not know that.
Yeah, I always joke that I've deep throated enough dicks to get rid of my accent finally. But I don't really think it'll come out sometimes. It'll come out sometimes, but I don't really have an accent. But I lived in the South until I was 17. But during that time, I really didn't even know that gay people existed, and so it was never really. I always tell people, I don't know if I'm allowed to say the word porn, but I didn't even look at gay porn. I didn't even.
You can say anything you want on here.
I really didn't even think that stuff. I didn't even think of that. Really, I really didn't. And I think some people are like, no, you must have thought it. I really, was that kid that would look at men's health magazines, and I was like, look at they're naked.
Yeah, sure.
And that was the extent of it, in a Walmart or something. But I didn't know that gay people or queer people existed at all. And so what's interesting is that as I moved here, I remember, in the South, I never saw, I really honestly didn't really see Confederate flags or barns or anything, that you would think of in the South.
Sure, super
except
rural
for a Cracker
type.
Barrel.
Right.
And then I moved here to Mason County for 2 years to finish high school. And it was so yeehaw, and I was like, what in the world? I went from being the minority of being a white person where I lived, really, kind of, and then it was actually racially diverse to the point where I used to be one of those people that was I don't see color, because it was so blended there that I didn't even notice.
Sure.
And then when I moved, I was like, oh oh my God, there's only white people. And if there is a Black person, they're adopted. And so that was so shocking to me. So I think that it is a place currently where it's a little bit intolerable, but it's becoming a place that through the current revolution that we're living through, it could hopefully change for the better. And I think that even in the comedy world, I've seen a lot of people welcome me and really they start to understand why I'm doing what I'm doing, and understand that I'm doing the same thing that they're doing, really. For their group. Even the straight white guys started to really understand oh, okay, I see what's happening. And so I think I could move, but I also think that it's changing over time.
Do you mind if I ask you a question that possibly our listeners are thinking?
Yeah.
Are most drag queens queer, or are there straight oh my gosh, it's the beer. Are there straight drag queens?
There are. I think that a lot of people conflate the idea of gender and sexual orientation together, that they're the same, or that they're inseparable with one another. And that really confuses. It's not out of people being malicious, but it's more just confusing for people. They don't really know how to understand separating the two. And so I have, it's not widely there, but I have seen a lot of straight men do it, for fun, and then they do it one time and they do it. I, put friends into drag, and they're like, oh, I have to do this again, because it was just so fun for to walk into a bar and for everyone to part like the Red Sea, because maybe they're scared, but maybe they're they think it's cool.
Yeah.
So I think gender is something that everyone, female, doing male drag king stuff, or men doing drag queen stuff, or everything in between. It allows people to kind of live out a fantasy that's not real. And I think a lot of people, they kind of hit on it in the movie, but even my mom, she gets it now. But I think at the beginning, a lot of people that don't know what drag queens are, and I think they might even think this about RuPaul, which is, I don't see RuPaul as a sexual being at all. I've never been oh, I wonder how, I don't, it's just not sexual to me.
Sure.
But I think a lot of people think that drag queens are some type of weird sexual, almost cross-dressing, which has its own lane. And sometimes the lanes cross over. But I think people think that that's all, they lump it all into one,
Sure.
rather than performance art, kind of like comedy. And so I think that there are and there could be more straight men who do drag,
Sure.
just to kind of, even for one night, to live out that fantasy. And I will say, since we're on here, if y'all want to pay me money, I will transform into a drag queen. Only because I really think that when men do drag, straight men do drag for Halloween, and it's kind of half-assed, I'm like, no. I want you to really do it. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I
want you to really do it.
I got to witness that experience with Stu when Stu was doing Tonight Tonight with Stu McAllister. He got the full, at least from the neck up, makeover, drag makeover, and it was great. Yeah.
And even now, my makeup is way more, I think, polished and fully realized. So
I do
even
want to mention,
if I redid that, it'd be even more intense.
That you were saying that you don't think of RuPaul as a sexual being or anything. He just got a lot more sexual or more attractive to me. I just looked up his net worth. It says RuPaul's worth somewhere in the neighborhood of $60 million. So
yes, I wanted to frack my hole. And
there you go. I don't think I'd put my own tights on either if I was. I was worth $60 million.
No, I actually listened to a drag podcast, and they said, so we have drag padding that makes it look like we have hips, like the hair shape or whatever. And I read that RuPaul, actually, because his legs are so skinny, he gets custom pads that go all the way from above the hip all the way down to his ankle, and it's just foam on the side to make it look like his legs are a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
And I
He's
was like,
6'3".
Right. And it's all part of that like illusion, but all of his gowns, if you ever watch a show,
all the way down to the floor,
and they're always made by Zaldi, the designer. And so his gowns are, custom made. His makeup is done by other drag queens. His hair is done by, and so I know he's also, RuPaul is a strange character, especially to play that Rachel tension, because he, as a real person, is married to a rancher. And so his husband, I think they live in like some yeehaw somewhere, and they own like acres
Mason County.
Of land. Right, they live in Mason County. But RuPaul has been outed recently for doing fracking on the land that he owns.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, and so he hasn't, and he also, RuPaul is a strange, weird thing, because he's done a lot for Black people and done a lot for Black queer people, like a ton. But it's almost like, from a drag queen's perspective, it's almost like he stopped, and then it was like, okay, I'm done. Which I can't tell a Black person what to do.
Sure.
And when we're tired and exhausted in our country.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, but for queer people, it's almost like, okay, I did what I did, and now I'm here just to like keep making money. And I don't have a problem with queer people, especially Black queer people, making their money, but I think that he maybe fell off track somewhere, and I know a lot of queer people are kind of like, get rid of RuPaul now.
Sure.
He hasn't really updated, and it's just
I
weird.
guess there's not really like a retirement plan for a drag queen though. Like, I mean, what do you can't just like call it good and head back to the farm, I guess. I don't know.
Right, and it's really weird, especially with speaking of retirement, because he's older.
Yeah.
There were some episodes at the beginning of this most recent season where he had almost like a do-rag situation, and it just was very weird, because he would always be very like bald and with the glasses and the suit when he would come out as a boy, and he had this do-rag situation, and he looked really tired, like it was very strange.
Sure.
And then a lot of queer people were saying that he got the yank, where they like did the they were calling it the yank, and that's why he was covering up like bandages.
Yeah.
And so I actually was like, oh my god, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does.
I think that show has done a lot, but it's so weird that he played that Rachel tension character.
Sure. Yeah. All right, ladies.
You want to talk about ages?
Hold on, we are going to have to. We've got 1 minute.
Another three-parter.
We've got 1 minute left in this little time frame here, so we're going to have to come back, if you don't mind. So
no,
we're gonna cut and break to another ad then, and then we will be right back again after this message, and then we'll wrap it up after that. So hang tight. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Mike Logan.
I'm Garrett Elzinga.
And this better be good. You know what it is. It's the weekly podcast where Garrett and myself, two professional comedians, review a movie before seeing it, and review it again after seeing it. And this is an ad for our podcast.
It is true.
You can find our podcast on all podcasting platforms, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify. It's
Stitcher.
everywhere, except for SoundCloud, because fuck SoundCloud.
That's what we used to use, and now we use Anchor. Anchor's fantastic. You guys should check it out.
It's true. If you like movies and you like funny anecdotes, and we also talk about movie news, and we've got witty, great banter, download our podcast now. If you're listening to this podcast, odds are pretty good you'll like our podcast.
It's true. We're incredibly funny, incredibly witty. I love Mike a whole lot. I don't know if he loves me as much as I love him.
So yeah, download our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks.
Hey, I'm Mike Logan.
I'm Garrett Elzinga.
And that was an ad.
Oh, okay. Well, that was clever.
Yeah, well.
Okay, and we are back for a second time. So now let's where were we at? What were we talking about?
We were going to do ages, I think.
We were just talking about how much money RuPaul is worth. So that's
that.
It's both depressing and exciting for her, him, whatever. And so off to the next game we've got. We're going to do ages, and for that one we don't have a theme song anymore. I'm going to just stop using that theme song because I'm afraid it's going to get flagged on the YouTubes. So this game is called How Old Are They?
Woohoo!
So, Mandy, take it away.
All right. So neither of you, I don't think, know how old the actors were at the time they were in this movie. Also, just real quick, we didn't talk about the Rips. The Rips to Chris Penn. Chris Penn died in 2006.
Did he really? I didn't know that.
Yes. Yep. So he's been gone for 14 years.
Sheriff Dullard is out.
Yeah.
Yes. No, not to him.
Okay. So, Ginger, how old do you think Wesley Snipes was when he made this movie?
In 1995.
I feel like black don't crack, so I'm like, I don't know. This is a trick.
I am so bad. I know. I'm so bad at telling black people's ages. It's not even funny.
Right. I'm going to say 31.
Okay.
I'm gonna say he was 38.
Okay. Well, we usually give a plus or minus 1 year. So, Ginger, you're for sure closer. It's 33.
Okay.
Wow.
He was 33.
Oh,
Yep.
He seemed older to me for some reason. I don't know.
Also, Rips to Swayze. He died in 2009. Can you believe he died in 2009? I feel like that is... Yeah, I feel like it was just like a couple of years ago that he passed away, but
yeah.
And the pictures of him when he was about to go were horrible. And like kudos to a guy that can be in Roadhouse and ripping fucking people's throats out.
Yeah.
And then he does this movie like this. He's amazing
for sure.
So Ginger, how old do you think Patrick Swayze was when he made this movie?
I'm gonna say I don't know how old he was when he died. 41.
Okay. I'll stick around that same area. I'll say 38.
43, Ginger for the win again.
There you go.
Maybe I have a talent.
Right? I know, right?
It's not just getting double penetrated. I never knew.
That is awesome. All right, so Matt has that same talent, which is so crazy that we're doing that.
And Mandy said we add one or two, so you get it.
Right.
All right, John Leguizamo. How old do you think he was, Ginger?
I'm gonna say like 29.
Okay.
I will say 38. I'm just gonna keep going.
What the fuck, Matt?
Yeah, go ahead.
He was 31.
31. Okay.
Oh.
There's one more, and this one was difficult for me. I couldn't really believe this, but how old do you think Stockard Channing was?
I thought you were gonna say Clara, the old lady.
No, yeah, and
104.
I know, right? Actually, she, just so you know, rips to her as well. She died in 2016.
Oh, no.
Yeah, not that long ago.
Alice Drummond. Yeah, she hung in there.
Yeah, she did.
She looked old in 95, and she made it to 2016 . So kudos
and
to her.
me, it's weird because Stockard Channing, I don't know what part of my brain thought that like Grease was from back in the 60s. You know what I mean? Like I didn't realize that Grease was like filmed in the 80s. and was a period piece at the time. So
I did not know that either. So
she already seems super old to me to begin with, and I was like, there's no way she's this young in this movie. But yeah,
I'm telling you, right? So how old, Ginger, how old do you think the Sackard Channing, who played Carol Ann, who the wife that got beat up and saved basically like the main...
44.
Okay.
Matt, what do you think?
I'm going to veer away from my 38. I'm going to say she was 40. I'm going to say 46.
She was 51 in this movie.
All right.
And she's still going.
Yeah.
I was like, she looked amazing for 51. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I want to look like her right now. And
you get work done like in the right way. You know? So we're like, wait, how was she? Kind of like Jennifer Aniston, where we're like, how do you look like that? I don't think Jennifer Aniston is pretty. But I don't understand why we're obsessed with her. But I do think that she looks the same. It's so weird to me.
Her and Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd has not aged at all. We have talked about him. And so, okay. So now that we've talked about that, if you could choose 3 straight celebrities to do drag, like maybe nowadays,
remake
or like
this movie now.
Yeah, like remake it. Who would you choose?
Oh my gosh.
Tom Hanks.
Yes.
Like young Tom Hanks or old Tom Hanks?
I don't even care. Old Tom, like Tom Hanks right now, like COVID-19 Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks has like a constant 5 o'clock shadow, though.
I love that. Oh my God. I don't.
What about Kevin Hart?
Yes. Just a much shorter version of.
Yeah. That would be really funny too.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah. So that was it. That was all the ages that I had.
Rips to Robin Williams. Sad.
Oh yeah, rips.
All right, we got one more game. Oh, that's not it. All right, this last game that we have, it also has a theme song, and that theme song goes like this.
I think it's time we stop, children. What's that sound?
You're still playing this, huh?
Yeah, this one's short enough.
What's that
It's only like 10 seconds long.
We're gonna get busted.
No, it's cool. As long as we talk over it, it's fine. It's
right.
It's parody use. It's conjecture. I cut up the songs enough. It's fine. So this game is called What's That Sound? And in this game, I take a sound from the. There you go. Very good. It's always best to wear headphones or earbuds for this game. I take a sound from the movie and I play it to you, and you have to tell me what's happening on screen during this sound. Okay. So let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. We're going to play the first sound for you, and it goes like this.
Oh, is it? Can I guess right now?
Yeah, it's yours. Yeah.
What happened, though, is I think it took your microphone away, and it's using the microphone on your headphones, which is fine. It's just a little different. There you go.
Does the voice sound gayer? I wish...
I don't think I'm allowed to say, am I? I don't know.
You can. I feel like this is what, if I did like the drive-through at Chick-fil-A, they're like, shut the fuck up.
We got some ASMR vibes going on right now.
Yeah. Oh my God. The noise, I think, is when Wesley Snipes' character found all the costumes.
No. I'll play it for you one more time.
That's a good guess.
It's a good guess. Yeah, it's pretty similar, but I'll play it for you one more time.
Oh, okay. It's when he's playing basketball.
Yep, it's during the basketball game. Yep. Nice.
I just can tell it's him like crying, like doing that weird noise.
All right, and then here is the next clip. We only have 2 this time around, so here's clip number 2. That's it.
Is it when Noxeema's grabbing that guy's nuts?
It is. Yep. That's the sound.
There we go.
Good for you. I totally thought it was Patrick Swayze pushing what's-his-face, Virgil out the door.
That'd be a good
one,
too.
The fact that that Noxeema grabbed his nuts.
I think I only know that because I had my sister, when I was watching it, I rewinded it and was like, funny straight guy getting beat up.
And then just in case we wondered what the rest of that sounded like, here's the rest of that scene also.
What's all this noise?
Oh, baby. You are a whole lot of woman.
Yes.
So
I know what you need.
these guys, these hill rods in this town, were just assumed these were all women, right? Like,
I can't tell if they're being like transphobic or
You
not.
should apologize.
Like they know that they're just like big women, or I don't know.
I mean, there's only so many women in that town, so they probably don't have that much experience with.
That's what I figure. I don't think they really know.
Right.
Do you like my nails? I walk.
I took the sound out of the
She's
clip.
had a difficult life. What did you say
Oh
your
my
name
God.
was? Your name? Tommy.
Tommy.
Well, Tommy,
Tommy.
this is Miss Fida and Miss Clara. And this is Miss Katina and Miss Myrna, Miss Loretta, and of course, Miss Little Bobby Lee.
Little Bobby Lee.
Now, Tommy, when
Oh,
you encounter
my
such
God.
gorgeous ladies, the correct way to greet them is to say, "Good afternoon, ladies." Can you say that, Tommy? Good afternoon, ladies.
Very good. All right.
I
so you
love him.
nailed them both.
Yes, great job. I do love him, the guy that played Tommy. He
Tommy?
was in he was in it was Drew Barrymore where she went back to high school.
Never Been Kissed.
Never been
Kissed.
There you go.
Okay,
Yes.
I changed my movie answer earlier to Never Been Kissed.
There you go. Shaped your childhood, huh?
I do love him. I was like, when I saw him, I was like, oh, I am not happy that you played this douchebag.
Nice.
And then there was one, Jamie Harold, who plays the boy that stutters, Billy.
Yeah.
I think he is so cute. I don't know why. And he was in Natural Born Killers, and he plays like he plays a small scene with Juliette Lewis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, beer. And then and so when I saw him, I was like, where the fuck do I know this guy from? And then I realized it was from that, and I just think he's adorable. Just
Right.
so,
With that weird yellow pants and hat ensemble.
well, that was because of Leguizamo. She brought out all the 60s stuff. I know. And I love that Clara came out as like a hippie.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is crazy.
It's the first time that town has seen any
color.
Sort of, any sort of color in decades.
That's like my drag closet, which is right. I don't know if I can turn this. It's just
there you go.
Leather boas and costumes and
oh my
shoes
gosh,
and hairs and yeah.
I am so jealous.
My sister came down here earlier with some, boy that she's getting dicked down by, and she was like, "Look, this is my brother. He's a drag queen. Look at all this." And he was like, "Oh wow." He's like, "It's fabulous." I'm like,
Yes, it is.
It is, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? Okay, so I mean, we're basically
We're
here's
done.
the question: would you watch this movie again, Ginger?
Yeah, I love this movie. You know what movie I would not watch? Is that the next question?
No, it's just, basically, we don't do a rating system on this, and a lot of times when we bring people on, they may not have ever seen the movie in the first place. So it's kind of a gauge on whether or not, like, would you watch it again? We forced you to
or
watch
did
it
it
this
hold
time.
up?
Or does it hold up? And would you? Yeah.
I think it holds up, but I also think that it deserves a remake, like a modern, like we were talking.
Yes.
I think it would be so funny and so good. I think that the makeup has changed and the drag has changed so much.
Sure.
That if they redid it, with modern drag queens and had those little drag queen celebrities in it, people would love that. I mean, people, this is like such a cult classic. So I think they should remake it, and I think that'd be really cool.
Cool. How about you, Mandy? Would you watch this movie again?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'll probably watch it as long as it's on Netflix.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would pay to rent it.
Sure.
Just because I watched it a lot as a kid, so I kind of. Although I'm not gonna lie, like I completely forgot Robin Williams was in this. I feel like that just got like deleted from my mind.
Sure.
So
it is a very small part. He's only in it for just a few minutes, and then he says you can have any car on the lot for $50.
I was like, girl, this is what it probably feels like to be a DeVos. Just pick one. They're all $50.
I was going to ask you guys too. Would you go for what did they say? Whether it's style or whatever, the Pinto or whatever the hell the other one was. Like
it was a Cadillac or a Toyota Corolla.
Yeah. Would you go for the Corolla or the Cadillac? Either one of you.
I've had a car below. I've had 2 cars below up. So I would go for the ugly one and then just deal with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, same. And also when you're in a traffic jam in a convertible, it is like being baked by the sun.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
It is the worst thing ever.
Yeah, no. We have like tools to keep this, glued to our head. But I'm like, how in the world are they in this car? Which is, again, like the fantasy of the movie.
Yeah, sure. Movie magic. Yeah.
Stupid. But I was like, what? So, yeah.
And also this kind of, when we were talking earlier, I kind of thought, do you think that they kept the drag on, especially when they were in the small town, because that's how they arrived? And if they walked out as men,
they would have been run out of town. I assume. Yeah.
I think that's part of it. I think it's too, like, when we're in, I think they were trying to not just capture, like, documentary style, kind of like the We're Here show. It shows them out of drag a lot, and then they get back into drag. But I think it's almost like you're entering the fantasy world that drag queens live in, where, like, who's to say that certain scenes aren't the people, like, just imagining that they have all of that on and that they really don't, and that they're embodying those characters. And so, and I love that. I was going to say, I love the mention of, like, they talk about drag families where she says, like, I'm Vita Bohem of the Bohems of Brooklyn or whatever, or Manhattan. And I thought that was really cool because I think a lot of people might be like, oh, that's weird. But, drag queens really do have families. Like, in Grand Rapids, we have the Sanchez family and the Divine family. Like, there really are drag families. My family should just be called the House of Chlamydia, but they really do have, houses here. So I thought that was cool that you could kind of almost tell that, especially at the time, they probably really did have a queer person, helping out with the film.
Sure.
Yeah, they actually all went to New York, and they were around the drag scene for quite a while to get their parts and stuff.
That's good.
Yeah.
I do think that they tried their best as 3 straight guys to portray and to not insult the drag community, for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure. So I wanted to ask too, so let's say there is a little Latin boy in a dress somewhere who wants to become a drag queen. Do you ever, like, take someone under your wing and sort of guide them through the process? Or is that a thing that happens, or do people just kind of go at it their own?
Yeah, I actually, so I'm gonna, like, take this off so I can show you, but I have this is like a whole situation in here.
Yay, I'm excited. This is like a tour.
A tour.
Yeah, if you're not watching this right now.
A bunch of costumes, and then over here we have, like, a bunch of wigs that are hanging.
Sure.
And then a bunch of mirrors. There's another mirror right there. And so there's a bunch of, like, it's like a gay Toys R Us. And so I have some friends who have been really interested in, like, hey, I really want you to do this. A lot of them are gay guys who, like, don't want to shave their facial hair.
Yeah.
Because they're ugly as fuck without it on. So as long as they get over that part, I would love to help them out. I know my partner, Drew, who lives with me, has become a quarantine drag queen. So some people have been, like, trying to be drag queens in quarantine, and then hopefully when this is over, pop out.
Sure.
But I know the best place to go. Kind of, it's funny that they have the little Latin boy in drag character with the makeup, the red lipstick. A good place for drag queens to try out for the first time in front of other people and get ready with other drag queens who they may meet for the very first time when they're doing their makeup and everything around drag queens who have been doing it for a while. At Rumors nightclub downtown in Grand Rapids, they actually have amateur cabaret on Tuesday
Wait,
night.
Can you say the name of it again? I feel like it got cut out.
It's Rumors nightclub, and it's amateur cabaret.
Rumors.
Okay.
And yeah, it's on Division, and so obviously coronavirus right now, but
Sure.
it is sort of like where people can come, they can do 3 different songs and just try it out. I think the best thing for people to do, the fantasy, you know, doing all of this at home is really easy.
Mhm.
I live with my sister too, who we look very similar, especially when I'm a drag queen. And so, and I live with people that I can be like, be critical, does this look good or not? You know,
Sure.
before I get on something like this. But there, it's nice to kind of like build community. And I think the scariest part of drag, you know, besides figuring out the hair and the costume and the tights and the foam and the corset, and the lashes and all of that, is actually doing it
Sure.
and actually, you know, figuring out an idea and then bringing it into the world.
I mean, that's like
think really-
it's very similar to comedy, I feel like, in that same way, where like
Yeah.
you recommend a safe place to go try comedy where it's not
Yes.
going to be, you know,
Right.
a big
Yes.
deal. You go there, you try it once, you see if you like it. A lot of people get hooked, and a lot of people just do it once and we're like, I did it, now I'm done. And
Right.
you know, that's just
And
how
it's
it works.
weird because it's kind of like, it's the same setup where people watch like famous comedians.
Mhm.
You know, like they'll watch like Louis C.K. and they're like, you're not sexually assaulting anyone too soon. Or they'll watch other
No.
they'll watch other famous comedians and then they'll go watch you and they're kind of like, you know, if you don't. So a lot of people, like, they'll watch a drag race and they'll expect every drag queen to do like a cartwheel and a flip and a split and do a joke
Sure.
and do it, you know, and it's not really that way. So what I had to do for a long time, I still do now, is practicing like at home before I go out and like showing people my jokes or showing them, you know, songs that I mix together and asking them. But Ambrosia, the Ambrosia family, is growing against my will. So my partner is Aria Ambrosia. And so he has been doing drag and doing makeup. And so it's hard. I think that it's good to have someone that knows how to do it, that kind of is their drag
Sure.
mother and teaches you that kind of stuff. Like for example, like I don't have a 5 o'clock shadow when I shave because I'm a redhead. It's like blondish red hair.
Yeah.
So I don't have to cover that up with to color correct. But
Mhm.
if Matt, if you were to do it, you'd want to color correct to get rid of the black.
Mhm.
And even when I did Stu's makeup at the time, I didn't really understand that. But I've done other people's makeup a lot now, so now I get it. So if people are watching and they want to know, you can message me on Facebook. And, you know, after coronavirus, we can connect and we can hang out in our little drag room. And I'm also, can I plug things right now?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is
Yes,
the time.
let's
Yeah.
do that. This is the time.
This was supposed to happen before coronavirus, but I believe I'm hoping to do it at Dog Story Theaters still. But it's going to be called Betsy DeVos's School for Girls, and it
Nice.
is it is a place for 16-year-old to 24-year-old people who are wanting to try out drag. So 16 to 18 will have like a parent form, and the parents will be involved a little bit,
Okay.
unless they're estranged. Anyway, but we are going to actually have a situation. There's a show in Chicago called Feedback where drag queens will perform, and other drag queens who have been doing it for a while will actually give them like feedback about what they did good in their performance and what could be improved. And we're
Mhm.
going to follow that same format. So we'll have a guest drag queen every month, maybe from Drag Brunch, maybe from these other big shows, and they'll be the guest judge, but we'll be able to actually chat with the drag queens afterward. And it'll be a competition where they can win money.
Okay.
But that way they can come back and keep improving, and we'll have a champion that can get knocked down. But we want to really build a space in Grand Rapids where there is that sense of community, because right now there isn't, you know, especially before coronavirus, it was a lot more competitive rather than embracing one another and really working on the craft. And that's something that I really, especially with comedy, that I really value with the Funny Girls, is that they really embraced me and really would sit down with me and be critical and be honest and say, this doesn't work or this does work.
Sure.
Or, you know, you're harassing people too much, and that's a drag queen thing. That's not really a comedy thing. So people are scared of you.
Yeah.
And that was
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh. I think that's great.
It was a big learning lesson where I was like, why won't people, you know, why don't they understand? And they were like, that's not really the comedy world. So we're going to try to do the Betsy DeVos School for Girls and hopefully teach people drag kings, queens, and then whatever else in between. How to still do what they want to do, but really hone in on it and hopefully perfect it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that we'll learn from them as well. And so that's one way. We're also going to try to do something called Flailed It, which is a gay baking version of Nailed It.
Gotcha.
with drag queens. So that will be coming out. All of this stuff was like really planned out, and then coronavirus.
Sure.
So
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So if they want to get information on all of that stuff, is there like a central? Just they just go to you and find out where that's happening?
Yeah.
Or?
So it would either be Ginger Ambrosia, which is on Facebook or Instagram, or Advocado Productions, which is a production company that I co-facilitate with Bucks Dine, who is a faux queen, drag queen who does some like gender illusion-y stuff. So we do Advocado Productions, which is a play on Miss Advocate, which is a name I was given by someone being rude. So I reclaimed it. I was gonna say.
Oh, it's like Obamacare.
It is. Yes, I'm the Obamacare of drag. I was gonna say it's really interesting that in the show you kind of see different levels and different or in the movie, sorry, you see different levels and different types of drag. And in Grand Rapids, I think the parallel is really weird because here you have to be very polished and very put together in order to compete in a pageant like that and win a title.
Yeah.
And so watching it back even yesterday, I was like, oh my gosh, they have these like beginner queens, and it doesn't really seem like that would happen. So if you're someone that wants to do like a beginner queen thing, just you can message me. Our queer community is really coming together, especially right now. We've kind of been forced to, but in a good way, where I think that after all of this and as this goes on, we're going to be able to work with one another. And I'm really excited for the Betsy DeVos School for Girls to kind of reach that younger age group, and to really I think in Grand Rapids, we need to really recharge that drag where we are being political and we are being cheeky and funny. And everyone, when you guys heard the name, everyone is in on the joke because I don't have to explain the joke because we live in DeVos world. We understand what that means and why that's funny. And I'm hoping that can kind of, when we get back from coronavirus, we can kind of like get back with that spirit because I love that part of drag.
Sure. All right. And then is there anywhere that people can find you specifically, or was it just Instagram?
Yeah, I guess Instagram, Facebook. It's just Ginger. G-I-N-G. How do I spell it? G-E-R Ambrosia. If you can't spell it, don't.
Yeah, you don't need to find. Yeah, they don't need to find you if they can't spell it, right? It's not like it's Leguizamo, for Christ's sake.
Exactly. Oh my God.
All right, so they can find
not even ever Google that. I'm like, I don't know.
Okay, so they can find all that information through you once it starts coming out. So follow Ginger on social media, and then she'll get the info to you once it's available. After we can all go back to playing around like idiots.
We can put links too. We can put links on our. If you want to send us that stuff,
I will.
For sure.
Yeah.
Mandy, do you have anything at all you need to tell anybody about, or anything that you're enjoying in the real world that people should be looking at during this time of quarantine?
This is my first week as a stay-at-home mom. I went to the beach today with my kid.
Neat.
And
Brad.
she loved it. I know. I'm sorry. This is just what happened after quarantine. I was like, hey, we've been together 24/7. We can't leave each other alone now. So it's been great. What about you, Matt?
Nothing coming up really or anything, but you can reach out to the show if you want to tell us anything that we did wrong or anything we got right. You want to give us a virtual high five, you can email the show at anotherepisodepodcast@gmail.com, or you can find us on Instagram. So on Instagram, we always put out the poster for the show the Sunday prior to the episode drop. So sorry. So on Sunday,
I know, I'm like, who's drinking here? It's not you.
On Sunday, if you go to Instagram and you find our page, you're going to see a poster there for the next week's episode. So you get a couple of days advance notice to go and watch the movie so you can join along with us, which also means that, Ginger, you're going to be on the cover of this movie, replacing one of the actors that were actually on the cover. So that'll be coming out shortly. You can find us there on Instagram. Otherwise, email us again like Dan did and suggest some movies you want us to cover. If they were part of our wheelhouse as kids, we'll totally do it, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So,
sometimes we're like, oh yeah, we didn't even think of that movie.
Right,
so
otherwise, we don't really know how to end this, so we just kind of play a clip at the end to get this mess out of here. So I have one last clip left, and it goes like this.
When a lady says no, she means get your hand off my dick, buddy.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Ginger, for joining us. And have fun out there, guys. Stay safe and enjoy yourselves. Okay, bye.
Bye.